do I get out of a reading slump? That's the question that I feel like most people want the answer to, but can't find a straight answer to. So here's the thing. Everybody's solution to get out of a reading slump is gonna be different, and I want you to keep that in mind as I tell you how I get out of a reading slump. But you can trust me because I read a lot of fantasy books, and a lot of them have like heavy world building, and they're kind of intense. So if I'm constantly reading something intense, it can become a little bit tedious at times, and it can kind of put me towards that slump. So I've learned that I have to be careful, and I've kind of learned the hard way what I need to do to either get me from not going into that slump or get me out of the reading slump if I enter into it. Now I have 4 things to share with you today, and I cycle through these things based on what I feel like I'm needing, but also I just do them regularly to make sure that I don't get into that reading slump kind of feeling. And I feel like that might be my number 1 tip, or like a 0.5, number 0.5 of a tip is to tell you to do things before you get into a slump, and don't wait until you're in the slump to do things to kind of get you out of it, if that makes any sense at all. But the number 1 thing that gets me out of a funk is audiobooks. Audiobooks are great because I feel like they take a little bit less brain power to consume, and if you have ADHD like me, you know it's very hard to focus on words on a page sometimes. I find myself rereading pages over and over and over again just because I lost my track or my train of thought has kind of wandered off into the distance. And audiobooks kind of help me stay on that trajectory, kind of quiet my brain in a sense of giving it noise so there's no room for anything else. And it's also nice because I feel like I read more books by having audiobooks just to begin with, because I can do things like chores, go on a walk, or do other cozy hobbies while I'm listening to my audiobook. So I feel productive while I'm listening to the audiobook. And I've already tried and tested this. I was reading Heavenly Bodies as a reread, I guess, before Fallen Stars, which I do have an entire reading vlog for that. So if you want to go check that out, go to my channel for that. But I wanted to refresh my memory on Heavenly Bodies, but I was feeling super slumpy. I knew that if I tried to eyeball read it, that it would not be a great experience or as good of an experience as it could have been, because this was a 5-star read for me. I wanted it to be a 5-star still on my reread. So I told myself, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna download the audiobook. I'm just gonna chill and consume this story through my ear holes. And it worked like a charm. I had such a great experience. And one thing that I really like doing is tandem reading. So basically I listen to the audiobook and read the physical book at the exact same time. So that gives my body no room to do anything else. I have to eyeball read it. I can't focus on something in the distance. I can't think about anything else because I have so much input. If you take anything from this entire video, please take that. Tandem reading works like a charm every single time, if you're feeling up for it, I guess. There have been so many times that I have been eyeball reading and I'm like, meh, I can't get through this. Put on an audiobook, tandem read, I get through it super quickly. And if you want to test my theory, do your audiobooks and do the tandem reading, I do have a 30-day free trial of Audible linked in my description. This is not technically sponsored, but I do earn commission, just so you know. But I use Audible every single month, multiple times a month, and it is so worth it. And it will continue to be part of my routine for the foreseeable future. The second thing that I like to do is switch genres. Now I say this lightly because this doesn't always work. However, there have been a few times that this has worked like a charm, so I figured I would share it with you because I feel like that might be the number 1 tip on how to get out of a reading slump. A lot of people will tell you to switch genres, and that's a little bit difficult for me because I only read fantasy really because that's what I love, and I don't really get tired of it. My slumps are weird because I'm always in the mood for fantasy, but sometimes I have to do other things because it's hard to get through it. It's hard to explain. But I started reading some mafia romance, specifically mafia romance for me. I know a lot of people will do like a little fluffy romance. I can't do that. I've tried contemporary romances. I've tried modern stuff, and I can't do it. I can't do it. The only thing that works for me is mafia romance, which is hilarious because I mentioned this to one of my friends and she goes, dark romance is your palate cleanser? I'm like, kind of, yeah, which sounds crazy, but it's true. And that might not be the case for you, but for me it is. And I don't binge a whole series if I try to get out of my regular genre. I like to save one book in a series for when I've really feeling like I need it. And that's the Dark First series by Runix for me. I started The Predator a long time ago because I was really curious, because I've heard really good things about it, but also I was like, you know what, I might as well just try it out. And it was so good, so fun. It was very, very different from what I was used to reading, so it kind of like forced my brain to get out of that fantasy mood. But I didn't immediately go into the next book because I told myself, I was like, I know I'm gonna need this genre change a little bit later, and it's not like a super intense series where you have to read it back to back to like remember everything. I feel like dark romance is not a very memory heavy requirement, sort of, so to say. So I saved it, and I have been slowly making my way through the series every once in a while, probably every 5 or 6, maybe 5 to 10 books, I would say. I will go back to the Mafia of Romance for me, which I'm almost done with that series. It's been a while, so I need a new one. So if you have any more Mafia of Romance suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. But that way, if I don't go through book to book to book and do a back to back, which is weird for me because normally I like to go from one book to the next if it's out, but I know that I can save it. I know I have a fallback plan if I don't want to spend the money for an audiobook, or if I don't have any credits available and I'm not feeling that specific in the moment that I want something just completely different. I know I have another book to go to when I need it. Now, this next tip is going to be kind of opposite of what people tell you. I like to purposely start a finished series with multiple books in the series, not just a duology, usually not a trilogy, usually more. And I feel like a lot of people tell you to pick up a standalone, which I don't necessarily understand that, because there's nothing at the end of the standalone to get you to want to pick up a next book or something else. It could be like a nice palate cleanser, I guess, but there's nothing getting you from one book to the other. And to get back into reading and to get out of a slump, you want to get into the rhythm and keep going for something. So I feel like a series is the perfect way to get invested in a story. For example, I picked up the Lady of Darkness series a couple weeks ago. I don't actually know how long it's been, but I had been wanting to read it, but because it's a 5-book finished series, I was like, you know what? It's gonna be perfect for me to go from book 1 to 2 to 5. And I was totally right. The first book got me invested in the characters, it got me invested in the story, and I could not put the series down. It kind of not forced me. It was just a good way to get me from point A to point Z. And after that, because there were more books in the universe, I got into that series as well. It's called the Legacy series, starting with Reign of Shadows and Endings. It kept me going and it kept me wanting to pick up more books. Now, I know that can kind of be daunting, and I feel like that's why a lot of people tell you to do standalones and don't pick up series, because a lot of people are scared to get started in something. And that's Zodiac Academy for me. There's so many books. Oh my gosh. I don't think that was gonna be a slump kind of mood. That's gonna be one that I'm ready for. But my point is, you have to have something to care about to continue to care. Does that make sense? It's kind of that concept of an object in motion will stay in motion. Although I will say you have to be kind of careful with this, because after I finished the Legacy series, it kind of put me into a slump because it was so good and because I was so consumed by it. So kind of just be cautious with this one. Now, this last tip I have for you is kind of a small one and sort of self-explanatory. What you just have to do is set a timer. If none of these things are working for you and you can't find it in you to just sit down and read, set a timer and block off some time in your day just to read and force yourself to do it. Sometimes you just have to go through the mess and you have to tell yourself that this is what's gonna happen and you have to tough it through. Now, a regular timer will do, at least for me. It's fine sometimes, but I find that more body doubling videos with timers help me. If you look on YouTube doing like ambient music, body doubling or whatever, and if you don't know what body doubling is, definitely go look that up. It is super helpful, especially for neurodivergents. But there's somebody on screen doing a similar task, or maybe a different task, just somebody there with you while you're reading really helps me, because it kind of offers an outside sort of layer of pressure to do what I need to do, because, oh, if that person's doing what they need to do, then I need to do what I need to do, and it kind of tricks your brain into getting it done. And the thing is too, if you set a timer and you get into the rhythm of reading, again, with the object in motion will stay in motion kind of concept, you're more likely to just keep reading after the timer is done. At least that's what happens for me. If I set a timer and I tell myself this is how much I'm gonna read, this is how long I'm gonna read for the day, normally I'm into the story at that point and I just keep reading. I keep going, and that's the point of it all, is just to keep reading, to get through all of the books that you want to get through. And at the end of the day, don't make it a competition, because you're supposed to be reading for enjoyment. This is a hobby. This is not, I want to read this many books in a year because I'm going to be the best at the best. No. you can do that. I guess that's fine. If that's how you like to enjoy your reading, then I guess go for it. But I find that sometimes making it a competition instead of a hobby kind of defeats the purpose of reading. If that doesn't work for you, I don't know what to tell you. I have yet to experience a reading slump and hopefully never experience a reading slump where none of this works, so I feel like there might be something in this for you. But like I said, it doesn't work for every single person. I have autism, ADHD, and OCD. I have the whole smorgasbord of stuff going on in my brain, so, and like I said, it might not work for everybody, so just keep that in mind. But as a neurodivergent myself, I found these are the most helpful things that I've ever done. And if it doesn't work the first time, keep trying them, because that's also happened before. If I'm trying to get into an audiobook to try to get out of my slump, I read the audiobook and I'm like, I'm ready to go, and then I try to read a physical book and then it's just like, nah, I can't do this. I do another audiobook. I keep going with it. But at the end of the day, I hope you have some luck with this. That's all that I have for you today, my friends. Thank you for watching and thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video. If you have made it all the way this way, tell me if you've tried any of these things or if there's anything that you are going to try. But I'm gonna leave you with that. So I will see you next time, my friends.